Good evening. Good evening and welcome very, very much to Conversations. On this, the first official program of 1988 in the Conversation series, where I'm pleased to welcome three gentlemen at the heart of an exciting new television development called Weekend Future TV. And we have the three gentlemen who have been putting that together for some time, a programming service that's likely to have a very real influence in terms of shaping American and perhaps world consciousness. I'm anxious to introduce the guests and get into a conversation of these new television possibilities, this exciting topic. And if I may, on my far left is Kevin Saunders of ABC and cable news, science reporting, and so forth, who's going to be, as I understand it, the president of programming or news for the new venture. And Kevin, welcome very, very much to Conversations. And in the middle of the group here is the chairman of the board of the company, the entertainer and businessman, television personality, Richard Havens, who's chairman of the board. And Richie, once again, welcome very much to Conversation. And on my immediate left is Richard Savage, who is the president of the WFTV, again, Weekend Future TV. And Richard, welcome very, very much to Conversation.
Pleasure to be here.
Maybe you could start it out here, Richard. The idea that you have in mind is to develop a new television programming service that is going to take as its focus the future. It's an exciting idea. Maybe you could share some of the, when you got the idea, and then we could talk about some of the dimensions of the idea itself.
As we were mentioning, I think it was 3 years ago, approximately at this time, New Year's, when Richie and I first conceived of this idea of television programming that would address the future exclusively, and the new media perspective that would represent seems to be the missing ingredient in television programming today.
Yeah.
Much of what we see is repetition and repeating of the past, and the ongoing 24-hour news channels that keep us repeatedly up to date in terms of the moment.
Yes.
Not very much looking ahead, not much of a perspective that leads us into the future.
It's true, and yet in all fields of endeavor, from science to business to government responsibility and so forth, one of the prime responsibilities is to have a sense of the future, and even a longer-term sense of the future, and it really does make an awful lot of good sense that we begin to orient ourselves in terms of television to the future.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We realize that the future is an all-inclusive concept, and no one is left out throughout the world, and that many other national cultures, for instance Japan, is looking to the future with plans in fields of education, in fields of business, economics, industry, government, and a full perspective, full spectrum perspective in relationship to looking ahead to the new millennium.
Yeah, that's right. We're all focusing on that now. It's 12 years to 2000, right? Magic number, 12 years, right? And there are also, Rich, you've been in touch with a number of the people who are Isaac Asimovs and other people in our society who are futurists and are so designated and have long had that kind of a perspective.
Yes, well, I've come in contact with many people just in traveling in the entertainment area. I've been fortunate to do television with people in that design, people who know the present so well that they can, in fact, give us some direction towards alternatives and options, is the idea, to what we already are in. And we've been lucky enough and fortunate enough to get several people like Isaac Asimov and people who have their hands, eyes, nose, ears on that possibilities, on the possibilities of the future, as futurists can go.
Yeah.
It's what you know put to work.
Yeah.
And that we find is a big lack of in the area of direction in the future. So
yeah, and particularly, and Kevin, you'd be aware, being science editor and being aware of science, that things are moving almost exponentially in terms of synergistic changes between the various disciplines and so forth, and scientists and comprehensive scientists who have a sense of that feel a sense of a coming together of a great number of things that do find a focus in the future, and it's a focus of much of the activity of the scientific community as well. Huh?
That's right. I mean, some scientists once said that science is the art of the 20th century. I think it's true. It's certainly true of the 21st century. And which has been a theme I've been involved in some time, even before the Cable News Network science work. I've done a special with Herman Kahn, Margaret Reid, and William Owen Thompson called Toward the Year 2000, which in fact came to the attention of Richard and Richie here, which is how we converged on this. And you know, it occurred to me that you only get a chance every 1,000 years to have a millennium.
That's right, it really is true.
And so we are, in a sense, exploiting, if we might say, the fact that we have a big kind of logo time event looming. And in fact, you know, we will be obsessed with 2000. I mean, we, the planet, will be obsessed with the year 2000, I'm sure. So we're working now, for example, on the first of a series called Countdown to 2000.
Right, 12. All years ago.
It's a 12-part series. In fact, we go into this in some detail in a special presentation that we've made about this, in which I understand you'll be...
Yeah, I think we'll be able to show that to the people later.
And you'll see in that the year 2000 is a very it's a very useful focus. And one of our programs, the Countdown to 2000 series, is, I think it's the longest series ever proposed, because one every year right up for the next 12 years, and fancifully, hopefully, whichever we would like the final in the series on the year 2000, January year 2000, to actually do a live segment, at least, of the program from space.
From space, for space station, or from space in some way or another?
Whoever gives us the best deal on their space.
Oh, I see, right. Ariane or whoever's got the best deal.
That's right.
Right,
or the Chinese.
Yeah, or the Chinese, actually, right? Yeah.
Chinese, Japanese, French. And in fact, there will probably be an international space station. There'll probably be 2 or 3 space stations of some size up there by then.
Yeah, well, it really truly is an exciting time. And it is interesting in a philosophical perspective, too, that perhaps after, as the science is now telling us, maybe 200,000 years that our species first developed, we reach a point with a tremendous destructive capability that we've evolved that could perhaps spell the end of the species.
The most important achievement for the year 2000 is to be present.
Yes, indeed, we can do that. But that the adverse side of the destructive capability and the appropriate living reapplication of the technology that has built up through this gestation period of the human experience might well be heralding almost millennial-like liberation on a world scale. We have technological capability to make the problems of the world addressable and perhaps solvable in a way that never we have. So it truly is an amazing, perhaps the most amazing time ever in the history of the world. Everyone always thought that, but really in true, real terms, that is the case now.
Well, science and technology can be, and is becoming increasingly, will increasingly become a weapon for a means of security. The weapons technology, with minor conversion, almost without residue, can be transformed into a peacekeeping system, the satellites being an example.
Yes.
There is now a move, for example, in the United Nations to establish a thing called ISMA, the International Satellite Monitoring Agency,
Yes.
whereby satellite systems, either in place now or to be put in place, will be able to monitor the entire world, not just for peacekeeping, but for watching storms or catastrophes,
Crops.
or crops. And a kind of security and development satellite certainly will be in place by the year 2000 and will make a substantial difference in many levels.
Yeah. So all of these things do promise, have a tremendous promise, and that's part of the excitement of what you're trying to do, is to make a bridge between now and then, as it were, so that we can help move the planet in these very crucial days, not to overwork the term, but in these very crucial days, toward possibilities that is going to allow us and our progeny to realize the benefits of this.
Point. And the idea or concept, countdown, has always been something used by commercial media and by the highest scientific media. They say 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, the rocket goes off.
Yeah.
And the focus of mind has always been able to use the concept, countdown, to actually focus, it all attention into one area. And Countdown to 2000 promises, in a sense, to give focus to our situation and leading outward toward a hands-on future, a future that's tangible now, that may be obscured by economics, for one thing, because in the future, between now and 2000, very many things are going to change in terms of economics. Basically, I believe that superconductivity alone is going to change a great amount of how we perceive our present situation.
Many people do feel that.
Yes, our present situation is then upped 39,000 degrees as far as I'm concerned, which gives us even more access to the future.
Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? Something like physics that 10 years ago they would have thought it was not possible or something, then a development happens in physics which synergistically, unexpectedly, affects
everything.
Economics and other things. So there's a new book, James Glick has a book called Chaos, but the unexpected events that history is bringing to us is really interesting and exciting, tremendous story to be told.
I give a lot to that.
Yeah, right.
Basically because I don't think everything is finished.
Yeah.
Nothing is finished. It's only begun.
Well, we may be in a certain sense finishing a period of gestation. The term is often used that we've been perhaps gestating and that we're moving into a time which could make it possible for us the first time in human history to supersede the need for war or pestilence and some of the things that have plagued us throughout the human experience, which makes it that doubly more, triply more, exponentially more exciting than any other time that one can
I
think
do
of.
think that television has played a great part in the near past, in the near past history of the globe itself, in pushing those buttons that lead to that knowledge that is unexpected. You see, and that what it has done, in my estimation, traveling around the world and seeing television from different countries and how different it is used to impart knowledge, to impart news of the world, and the differences between them. We now find that the satellite is bringing it again into one ball of wax, where eventually translation and things like that will drop away just from mere contact.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Mr. Arthur Clarke was really prescient when he saw the significance of the satellite, and it's making such a difference in the communication and the information within the media mix, as it were, which can be within a media mix between the various institutions, give them a certain kind of ability to bring information to affect consciousness and to bring educational understanding to people without necessarily being responsible for the institutions, representatives of which might come into and out of the media. So it gives a chance to give a systems understanding of some of the events and a comprehensive understanding that many of the institutions have a difficult time with, being so specialized and history-bound, perhaps, than they have. If you understand.
Nation-state governments themselves, they probably give way to a global governance, certainly in the next century, which truly should be the century of peace. It may be that our century, our millennium, has been the caterpillar millennium, and the next one will be the butterfly. But certainly the convergence and synergy, as you say, of science and technology particularly, creates the possibility of something very close to a paradise.
Liberation.
Liberation to a paradise. And Jacques Ellul, the futurist, said that there are no political solutions anymore, only technological and scientific solutions. The rest is propaganda.
Well, all right, that's one way to see it. Yeah, well, all of our history-bound institutions are sort of, in a sense, represented by much of our power structure and so forth, and that would all have to be liaisoned with and dealt with and so forth in a responsible way. But the media offers a great opportunity. And Richard, I mean, what you intend to do, then, if I may, is to develop a programming service that would be national here in the United States and perhaps world, and maybe you can spell some of the specific definitions of that.
Well, in beginning with the United States, that would only be a beginning that would come out of limited resources that wouldn't enable us to be global all at once in our first year or so. But we see this quickly becoming something that will be attractive to the world and important to the world based on the global developments that are occurring common to everyone in the world at this point, and the media being that essential ingredient that is now able to communicate to everyone simultaneously.
Okay, and can take advantage of the cable and other kinds of distribution systems to make it possible to get new programming, alternate programming to what we traditionally have available to greater numbers of people. Now, you do have a clip that displays a lot of this that we want to show. We have to take a little break right now, okay, for a minute or so, but maybe we'll take that break and then come back and we'll set up this clip, what, a 10, 11-minute piece that you have, that could help explain with good graphics to the folks that are viewing what it is that you have in mind. So I would remind you again in the cable audience, we're speaking with the gentleman who are putting together this extremely exciting television programming service, Weekend Future Television. We'll be coming back momentarily. Please stay tuned, and we'll have a clip for you that'll give you some good graphic explanation and a point of departure for us to discuss this on into the rest of the program. Please stay tuned. We're coming right back. Back again now with Weekend Future TV, and we've been talking in general terms about the general condition in this, and you understand you've put together a promo tape, as it were, to give this idea, and we want to show that to the folks that are viewing and so forth in the television audience. But I wonder, maybe Kevin, you could set it up for us. This is a tape
it's a hard sell on the future.
All right.
What we've done is present in a fairly compacted form the range of topics, themes, ideas that we will be exploring in WFTV, Weekend Future Television. The only thing that I think is distinctive about it, and it's a profound distinction, is the perspective. That we are concerned only with issues that have resonance, as it were, that are of importance in the sense that they are influencing trends and directions. And we will concentrate on them and interpret and analyze and predict and project. So that we can track where we're going.
Okay.
Instead of just sort of sitting and round in awe at where we are and fretting and expressing our concerns, I think we'll be concerned primarily in WFTV with finding solutions to problems, rather than fretting about the problems without a sense of direction.
Okay, there are enough people doing that sort of fretting, right? There's enough of that sort of thing going on, and they'll be able to lay us on with this other vision and so forth. Okay, well, fine. Why don't we just run that tape now, let the folks see it, and that'll give us something to talk about as we come back. It takes about 10 minutes now that we have a tape. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, fine. Let's roll that tape now, then. Weekend Future TV.
WFTV, Weekend Future Television, introduces a newly formed television enterprise featuring programming for the global mega audience. WFTV is a breakthrough in media point of view, geared to move forward, to advance. New opportunities dawn, new horizons beckon. The future is unlimited. Around the world, there is a growing fascination with the future, a yearning to know and understand and shape the future in science and technology, industry, entertainment, business, media, information, communications, advertising, government, human relations, health, family, and ecology. At last, television is about to focus exclusively on the future in all its diversity, promise, adventure, and surprise. How can we prepare to enjoy the coming journey riding the shock waves of change. There are concerns. While the new technologies and knowledge offer means of social transformation that could create a new world of limitless potential, a world secure, free, just, and humane, those same technologies misused or misunderstood could destroy us. What can provide us with information to help explore ideas about the future? What can help us develop perspectives to navigate the future and to change course without swerving to avoid catastrophe on Earth and in space? WFTV is a newly conceived television entity, a breakthrough in media perspective, exclusively committed to a positive, global, humanitarian, future-oriented point of view, designed to explore solutions rather than dwell on problems. We believe the most captivating, the most significant television of the future will be WFTV. Events quicken. After millions of years with no sudden change in human affairs from one millennium to another, there has been, in the past 200 years since the Industrial Revolution, a period of accelerated change, reaching a point now when the wavelength of change is shorter than the human lifespan. The future holds increasing fascination and concern, and there is, in the phrase of futurist Alvin Toffler, future shock.
It is not simply among Hollywood scriptwriters that the word scenario is used. Scenario is now part of an everyday vocabulary. People talk about Delphis, people talk about what-if futures, people talk about time horizons and time frames. Future shock is in the dictionary, future, future, future.
Nowhere is change more insistent than in science and in media.
I do agree with that much of the news of today and on into our future is going to be science-based.
WFTV will look ahead to the future in its myriad aspects each weekend in an 8-hour series of 11 programs about the future. Future news and previews includes Technocast, a preview of new scientific and technological developments. Long-range business, projections of events and affairs in the business world. Upcoming action, a sneak preview of lifestyles and future-oriented fashions and trends. Destined to be, an entertainment forecast of up-and-coming talents bound for stardom. One step ahead is a preview of new developments in recreation and sports, games and amusements, and a look at future events worldwide. And Global Weather Report, the first planetary view of weather and climate trends using computer-generated composite globes and satellite views from space, with weekly forecasts for cities and bioregions in both hemispheres. In our second hour, New Horizons, will talk with leading futurist experts and theorists, among them science and science fiction writer Isaac Asimov.
I think that Earth is going to see an increasing computerization and robotization. And we're going to be spreading out in space despite all difficulties.
In our next hour program, Operation Computer, we will report on the implications of the continuing computer revolution. We'll look at hardware and software and the impact of computers on art, business, communications, and lifestyle. We will also invite people with personal computers to participate live, online, through the computer telecommunication system as we use the computer to identify and solve problems. And we'll talk with experts like World Future Society President Ed Cornish.
By 1990, we anticipate that probably more than half of American homes will have computers or computer terminals in them. This is going to change human life in a whole lot of ways we don't really understand yet very well. But by looking at these problems now in a rather disciplined way, I think we can get some control over the technologies and can use it for betterment of the human race.
I Am the Future is a half-hour program designed to give opportunity to the young to map and explore the territory of the future to which they are the heirs. And children will be invited to talk about their ideas and concerns about the future with adult decision makers, leaders, and experts. The one-hour program, Alternatives and Options, looks at the range of choices and opportunities for expanding human consciousness, knowledge, and potential, an exploration of ideas for beneficial change. Futurist Barbara Marx Hubbard.
The Vice President should be in charge of a peace room in the White House, and as the war room maps the forces of destruction and strategizes how to defeat them, the peace room would map the forces of creativity, the innovations, the solutions, the breakthroughs in every field, in every region, in every country of the world.
Our half-hour program, What Next, features reports and interviews on new discoveries and developments in music, entertainment, and art. And previews of new musical instruments like this, the Steinophone, a newly created electronic wind instrument, as demonstrated by Joel Peskin and Michael Brecker. Our half-hour program, Foretelling the Future, takes a critical, in-depth look at popular occult beliefs concerning prediction and prophecy, with discussions, demonstrations, and experiments featuring advocates and skeptics. And we will explore religious and psychic perspectives of prophecies. As events gather speed and continue to accelerate, we will consider what we can learn from the past in our program, Hindsight, looking at past successes and past failures that could have been avoided with a more future-oriented perspective.
We have to realize that everything we say about the future is going to influence the future, and that the picture we draw of the future is therefore tremendously important.
21st Century Health and Welfare will explore new approaches to food, medicine, health, energy, habitat, and the well-being of tomorrow's societies, emphasizing preventive methods to avert human suffering, providing new information on support systems to encourage self-care. In Unnecessarily Yesterday, we'll offer comic reflections from the future. Well-known comedians and writers of satire, parody, and comedy will be invited to join in creating and performing, establishing a perspective to reveal and to highlight absurdities of past and present-day life. In Challenge to Industry, we'll offer a unique opportunity for industry and corporate leaders to present their view of the future, with an emphasis on the role business hopes to play in shaping a better world. WFTV's weekend format will sometimes include live reports and features, including movies, previews, and specials. In Space 2000, we will look to the rest of the century and beyond as we continue that grand venture into the frontier that begins just 80 miles above our heads.
What we're building now with satellites is the nervous system, a global nervous system of all mankind that's going to link the entire human family together.
Are we an exceptionally unlikely accident, or is the universe brimming over with intelligence? That's a question which every human being resonates to. Everyone understands that that is a vital question for understanding ourselves and our origins. And now, for the first time in human history, we have, through the technological advances in radio astronomy, the capability of finding out the answer, seeing if anyone is sending us a message.
Countdown to 2000 is the longest television series ever proposed, a 13-part, 13-year series of WFTV one-hour New Year specials, culminating in a January 1st special in the year 2000, live from space. Our New Year 2000 special, Millennium, will be the first ever 24-hour global television celebration. A welcome to a new year, a new decade, a new century, a new millennium, as we look to the promise of the next 1,000 journeys around the sun. WFTV has begun.
Fantastic. What an amazing array of things that you have included in that tape, and it's a tremendous bite that you're taking in terms of these various chapters that you want to try and cover. The future's such a gigantic thing. It's a hard thing to do. Beautiful tape, incidentally.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We sometimes reflect that we're going to spend the next 12 years living up to our promo. And that's the challenge. But certainly, yes, it's a challenging theme and very rich.
Yeah.
And probably the most important shift in direction that one could undertake right now, as we say, as we go hurtling into the next millennium.
Yeah, indeed. And what you intend to do with the program is then cover, again, maybe we can go through this. You want to see it as 8 hours of programming that you would put on during the weekend, and then rerun that over and over. Maybe explain some of the nuts and bolts.
It's an 8-hour
again
format.
Yeah.
Ideally, we would like to run it 6 times over the weekend. That's the most ideal. There will probably be some places in the world where maybe only the 8-hour segment alone will take place. But that gives the full perspective of WFTV anyway. Our design here in the States in cable television is to run it over the weekend, to actually take the weekend for the future. Take that weekend and let everyone over that weekend have access to it. The 8 hours may run out at 8 hours. Then after that, no one has access to it.
Yeah.
So the idea is to repeat it 6 times over the weekend from Friday night to Sunday night.
Almost everybody could get in touch with it.
That's right.
The weekend's a good time. People are off work, people are off school, people have free time, and in that kind of a thing, and word will get out, right? Yeah.
Right. It's a saturation instead of over a period of months or years, where an average program is run up to 6, 10 times over the course of months or years, reruns and so on. We'll simply do it all in one weekend, which economizes promotion, publicity, advertising, and so on.
Yeah, it's a tremendous project because you'd be doing this each week. You'd have 8 hours of original programming each week, so each of those divisions you could have like 60 minutes each week goes. I mean, it's a lot of programming, as you well know.
That's right.
That's a lot that you're biting off in terms of production, not to mention all of the rest of it. It's a very large-scale project that you're
Well, I am aware of it. I claim that I was one of the, I was one of the few people around in those early days at Cable News Network when a hopelessly understaffed operation, it was widely believed it would fail. It was widely believed it would never start.
Yeah.
And it was a hugely ambitious undertaking. And in those early days, it really was held together with spit and chewing gum.
Yes.
Till
Bob Whistler came along.
That's right, that's right. But it worked, and it's amazing what you can do. In some ways, I shouldn't say this, but in some ways I think a great truth is television is not as hard as we make it. That there are certain shortcuts, procedures, systems, idioms that have emerged, not because anybody sat down and said, how should we make this TV show?
Yeah.
But the kind of pressures, the exigencies, the contingencies of the news itself has created a kind of idiom, has created a means of communication that is very useful, is very functional, it's comparatively cheap, and it's a kind of idiom that I think will mark much, not all, of the programming of WFTV.
Yeah.
It's sort of news, but it's news twisted around to look at the future.
That's right, and also you'll be able to have a number of pieces of footage that could be used in another context. It's not all hard news breaking at the moment. Some of the things are philosophically pieces that would be feature.
Yes, we want to scan from next week to the next 1,000 years.
Yeah.
I mean, plenty of.
But you'd be presenting each of these 12 categories each week, what's happening in that area and keeping people up to date. So science, technology, and these kind of things.
To a degree, it will be that way because certain programs might lend themselves to the breaking technology. Other programs lend themselves to a longer view of actual problems and alternatives and options.
Yeah, I was given the longer view that you have, it'll be a bit not as though you have to do everything breaking news. It won't be the difficulty of trying to do everything breaking news. That's harder, or deadline kind of stuff. And you can't use footage that's in the can, as it were, so well to put it image and everything. Right. Yeah. Well, it's a tremendous undertaking that you have. I mean, it's really ambitious, and it's one. It's something that this country most certainly needs and would find very, very important. And of course, we wish you the best with it. I mean, of course.
Thank you.
Our syndication people, incidentally, have the view that it may very well be that the program runs full weekend in Europe before the United States. But in fact, it may be easier initially to penetrate Europe than the United States because of all those, I'm sure you're aware of the very exciting developments now.
Oh, absolutely. New private sector development.
Every day, the satellites and so on.
Yeah.
And suddenly, Europe, from having been very restricted. Some countries have only had, one television station.
I know, yeah.
And suddenly now they have cable, they have 20, they have 30, or 50 television stations.
Great option.
And the thirst for programming is huge.
Yeah.
And we hope to satisfy that.
Yeah, and that'll also give you a chance to do some simulation and some preventive kind of things to prevent dangerous kinds of situations that might develop. It's a tremendous implications ecologically and so forth. And
yeah, well, to some extent, if you're reporting on the future, you become something of a caretaker.
Yeah.
You're to alert people. You are a signal, a warning signal. Well, that's why one of the first programs that we've actually begun work on, been shooting, has been dedicated to probably the overshadowing issue of all in our time, which is the threat of nuclear devastation.
Yeah, right.
And so our first program, tentatively entitled Stopping the Unthinkable,
yes,
Strategies to Halt the Bomb, is something we are working on now.
Okay.
And in fact, we are now, I'm working in association with the United Nations on this program now, where we are looking toward, even as we speak in early research and development, of a program devoted to stopping the unthinkable in the form of an entertainment show.
Okay,
A couple of hours.
I know. Now, we want to talk in detail about that. And again, we have another clip that's going to give us some sort of a jump on that, as it were. Now, we do have to take a little break here again, okay? And why don't we just take that and then come back, and when we do, we'll set up this tape that you have about that particular project, which is in and of itself is exciting and is only part of the ongoing kind of work that Weekend Future Television can be involved in. It's your pleasure in the television audience to have the pleasure, perceptions of the gentleman involved with this exciting television programming development, Weekend Future Television. We'll be coming right back. Please do stay tuned. Thank you.
How do you find out when an administration is corrupt? How do you find out when a government is hiding the truth? How do you find out about those who would like you not to find out? To become better informed about the role of a free press and how it protects your rights, contact the First Amendment Center.
Do you have your passport?
For the third time, yes. You have every kids relax. If we weren't grown-ups, they wouldn't have let us join the Peace Corps.
Peace Corps. It's creating food systems in Africa, building homes in Costa Rica, and fighting malaria in Asia. It's teaching math and learning French. It's working side by side. It's been tough, but for 25 years, the Peace Corps has been making a difference in the world.
Mom, Dad, I'm so proud of you.
Peace Corps, the toughest job you'll ever love.
Back again now with Weekend Future TV, and at the break we were talking about that you have this particular, I quite agree with you, and have over the years, that the main problem we have is to make sure that we will be there in the future, and so what the question of that, and that's something you've been particularly concerned with, is one of the ongoing concerns of Weekend Future television programming, and is a thing that you're particularly involved in now, right?
And again, with the emphasis on the future, what does one do about the nuclear arms race? We know the situation is here. We don't want to turn it into a sort of fretting thumbsucker.
Yes.
But to simply look ahead and say, all right, roll up our sleeves.
But we don't
what
want
do
to
we do now?
Yeah, but we don't want to, nor does Weekend Television want to be Pollyannish about things either.
That's right.
Okay, right.
So there are certain practical measures that can be undertaken, and that will be the emphasis of our program, Stopping the Unthinkable. I mean, you can have a nuclear test ban, which a lot of scientists, including Carl Sagan, whom you'll see in our clip, has been saying should be the first step, a comprehensive nuclear test ban. Most countries agree.
Well, it's particularly apropos had the INF treaties been signed and so forth,
right.
So that all of the world is in the right consciousness to be considering these things.
That's right. So there are all sorts of things that can be done. Take the nuclear triggers. All the nuclear triggers in the world could be put together in one shed, and then the rocket science simply become fireworks. There are all sorts of practical measures that can be, if somebody was sincere politically about stopping the nuclear arms race, you could do it very quickly. You could cut the arms the first time round by 95%. You could cut all the nuclear warheads in the world by 95%. Still leave enough around to wage a devastating war, but would take that peril down several notches to the point where it is now, where it really does threaten the biosphere and life within it.
Yeah, there's a question, what will we do with the plutonium and energy contained within those warheads? They might be able to be made into electricity.
It can be reconverted back into nuclear energy. Then you still have the waste problem, which is going to leave some difficulties for people for the next 1,000 years. But that at least is a problem that can be dealt with.
There's a fellow, Steinberg of Brookhaven, who says those things can be fed back through to where the half-life is decreased down and this waste problem can be...
Well, I'm sure some very smart people in the next century
well, there might be some
work it
synergistic things that we didn't know were there that could become. But in any event, let's see now, you have a tape here that deals with this.
We have a tape here that deals with
Maybe you could set it up for us here.
Well, the theme, Stopping the Unthinkable. Some people are worried about the title, think it's double negatives or something like that.
Yeah.
I think it's useful anyway, and we're not married to the title. Whatever the idea is, the thing we're concerned to do, to offer a series of approaches to stopping the unthinkable. And one of the things we hope to do at the United Nations in a 2-hour live special is to take a world telephone vote, inviting anybody in the world to vote either one of two numbers, yes or no. Are you in favor of, say, a nuclear test ban treaty? Are you in favor of a START treaty? Are you in favor of cutting nuclear weapons by 95%, or whatever? And people can answer yes or no, and we will have, for the first time, a world citizens vote on these issues.
Incredible. This is something that you're setting up, or attempting to set up with people at the United Nations. That would be a worldwide television program where people could have at least feedback to where they could dial a number to vote on a particular...
And we would have the results of each of the votes within 10 minutes.
Yes, of course. You could have that. It's a technological marvel. But this tape now has to do with that.
This tape lays out the theme. From the begins with the big demonstration in the park a few years ago, right up to the future, the concern of scientists about the tests, the demonstrations at the test site in Nevada, and so on. And as you will see, it's
so it goes back to Jonathan Schell's Fate of the Earth days and the being. Okay, fine. Let's roll that tape about what is it? About 4 minutes we have coming up here, and we'll come back and talk about it. Roll that tape now, then, huh?
Speedway in the Utah desert. I pick up my money, head back into town, driving across the Waynesburg County line. I got the radio on.
In this program, Stopping the Unthinkable, we will address the greatest issue of our time, perhaps of all time, the ultimate threat of the nuclear age, to return the planet to the insects. Those concerns drew nearly 1 million people to hear Bruce Springsteen and Jackson Browne, together with dozens of other entertainers, celebrities, political figures, scientists and speakers from all over the world who called for nuclear disarmament. This was the largest peace gathering in history, the great New York concert in the park on the occasion of the United Nations Second Session on Disarmament. In Stopping the Unthinkable, we will trace the history of the nuclear age, hear the anguished reflections of the scientist Robert Oppenheimer, who built the bomb, to the concerns of scientists today like Carl Sagan and others who have demonstrated against the continued nuclear testing. We will hear the comments of military leaders, past and present, and of concerned citizens, men, women, and children around the world. We will look at the growing worldwide unrest and the mounting pressure for a halt to testing and for nuclear disarmament, and at proposals to stop the nuclear arms spiral, some familiar, some new and ingenious, controversial and outrageous, as the world devises ways to stop the unthinkable. This is the first of a special WFTV 3-part television series. At the Nevada test site, the protests mount and grow, calling for a halt to testing as a first step. Charges were dropped after the first protest by Carl Sagan and the physicians and scientists only days before the trial and only hours after Sagan had appeared on the Phil Donahue show.
The issue is that there are almost 60,000 nuclear weapons in the world, amassed by the United States and the Soviet Union, which have a destructive potential which is many times more than what is needed to utterly destroy the two nations and the rest of the northern mid-latitudes, and perhaps to demolish nations all over the planet. If the purpose of nuclear weapons is to discourage some other nation from using a nuclear weapon, then we have by far more than is needed. Testing pumps the arms race. You cannot build new generations of nuclear weapons without testing. And There is no reason to think that this administration is serious about nuclear arms control. They want to keep testing because they have a passion for building new generations of nuclear weapons. They're more concerned about new generations of nuclear weapons than new generations of human beings.
Scientists at the United States Los Alamos laboratories now say that the Reagan administration's Star Wars program may require several hundred more such nuclear tests. Stopping the Unthinkable will continue to report on developments in preparation for an international interactive television program on steps towards cooperation, conversion, and security, and a celebratory anticipation of a world beyond the nuclear age. Kevin Sanders for WFTV.
We shall not be moved.
Yeah. Well, that really does encapsulate the major problem and so forth in a certain context. It goes back to the time when Carl Sagan was arrested out there some time ago. It didn't bring it up right at the moment of the INF and some of the hope that has come out of the signing of the INF Treaty and so forth.
That's right.
It is a major problem.
INF, I keep stressing, involves only 4% of the world's nuclear weapons.
Yeah, but
it is historic because
right.
It is the first time ever that a weapon that is in existence is going to be phased out. I mean, people are going to go in there with screwdrivers and dismantle bombs.
It's also going to raise the question of what we're going to do with the bombs.
That's right.
Which is going to be an interesting question, yeah.
There are, well, again, to quote Carl Sagan, he's argued that all the nuclear triggers in the world, which is really the thing to worry about. Now, he said, you know, without the nuclear triggers, we don't have to concern ourselves. It's really a matter of getting all the triggers together in one room and dismantling them and feeding them back into the energy grid, which
I don't understand. What's an energy? What is the trigger? I don't understand. I just don't know the technology. You know?
All nuclear bombs are activated finally by a smaller nuclear bomb, and that is the nuclear trigger, which is a very small device. I mean, the bombs are huge, but the trigger is very small.
I didn't realize that. And with with a nuclear bomb? I knew a nuclear bomb would trigger a hydrogen bomb, but I didn't know that. But
if you remove the trigger, you defuse the bomb. Now, first take your finger off the trigger, then take the trigger.
Yeah.
Well,
in any event, it touches a nerve that was there back in '82 and has been a matter of concern to all responsible people throughout, right up to the time. And this is a time of hope. And more interesting, perhaps, also is this a thing you brought up about this project that you actually have in the works coming up in May that would involve the United Nations.
Yes,
this would be a first step.
This has now converged,
effort, right?
Yeah, with a number of people at the United Nations now who are very excited about doing something on this, and doing it in the context of a mass audience entertainment show.
This would be a 2-hour worldwide television program.
When I say Europe, the United States, the Soviet Union.
On the order of the space bridges that have been done by Kim Spencer and ABC and so forth. Right, beautiful.
With all sorts of, we're talking with Joe Egger, who's the conductor of the United Nations Symphony Orchestra, and on the feasibility of concluding the program with Ode to Joy from Beethoven, in which the choir would be broken into 3 parts. Part of the choir would be here in the United States, in the UN General Assembly Hall. Another choir in Europe, possibly Paris, maybe Chartres. And a third in Moscow. And one could sort of cut from one choir to another to symbolically unite in music.
And this is something you actually have in the works, and this would be, in a certain ongoing sense, back again to the theme of Weekend
Future TV. This would be part of WFTV in association with several other groups who
you
would be involved.
You would have to be involved with a great number of other groups.
That's right.
That would be getting you into that direction on this most important issue.
That's right.
And that's something that's actually in the works now, aiming for May of 1988.
May of this year, when the United Nations goes into its next session on disarmament, and this would be an appropriate preface.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And also a preface to a possible summit meeting in Moscow that will be coming up in the later in the year.
It is timely.
Very timely. I should think there'd be great numbers, and that is magnificent. And then we're moving along, we're going to run out of time here quickly, not to lose track of this. We're still talking about Weekend Future TV. You also have, if I'm not mistaken, Richard, this idea of Countdown to 2000, which is a major pilot project, 2-hour pilot project that you're developing in order to keep the ball moving toward this autumn launching date, autumn 1988 launching date for Weekend Future TV. Share with us that, would you please? The Countdown 2000.
Well, the Countdown series is an annual special a 2-hour special that would fall within the time frame of the beginning of the new year. After the initial program. We're not going to be able to get it in within the new year time frame this year, but next year it would fall within that time frame, January, we might say, and address the upcoming year in relationship to approaching the millennium. So we would be dealing with leading edge developments in many of the important areas.
Again, major themes that you spelled out in your promo tape, right?
Right. Pretty much themes that connect to the 11 programs that are in the 8-hour weekend module.
So you're going to take that basic idea that's contained in that tape we saw and construct a 2-hour pilot that will be useful for people who are interested in this whole project. And that, in and of itself, is a major venture.
That's right. Countdown to 2000 introduces WFTV.
As a programming idea. And that's the eye on the sparrow. That's the idea that you really have behind all of these things. And that is the major development. Tremendously exciting.
And you know, we've been talking about the disarmament issue. There are many other issues that we plan to do specials on. Special on space, a special on the ozone layer, specials on the forest, specials on the ocean.
And then what you intend to do is be able to try as best you can with the researchers and so forth, get the best minds with the ideas in these various fields and do programming about them with this special attention on a future orientation on these incredibly interesting
alternatives
questions.
and options.
Extremely exciting. What a tremendous educational experience that would in and of itself would be possible. Now, nuts and bolts again. You intend to put this, of course, satellite by cable?
Well,
a cable service?
Countdown to 2000.
Where will the citizens turn on their television set to obtain this programming on the weekends come the autumn of 1988? Will it be on cable systems, or what is the likely pattern? There's various patterns, but
WFTV will probably is seen as a cable program, but Countdown to 2000, which was originally, in fact, designed with cable in mind, has emerged to the point where our syndication people are now convinced that it could and should go as a not a network, certainly one of the other on-air programs for prime time, as a prime time program, to introduce the idea. But the idea of WFTV, the 8-hour
as an ongoing programming service,
is a cable service.
It's a natural for cable because you are, in a certain sense, looking at things alternatively, and it's appropriate that there be airtime possible within cable where let them have the continuing programming pattern that they have and so forth, but let there be an alternative and let there be 1,000 alternatives bloom perhaps, and let people who are interested in it tune in and let the market decide.
Well, one of the things we're looking at now with very great interest is the work being done at MIT's Media Lab.
Yes, indeed. Stuart Brand just written an interesting book on that.
Oh, indeed.
That's again back to the theme of simulation and being able to prevent tragedies or other kinds of things.
And Inventing the Future is the subtitle of his book about the MIT lab, and he has used a phrase, in fact, it's one of the titles of his book, which has captured something which I've thought about for many years, that information wants to spill, is the phrase. And you can go to a lot of effort to stop information spilling. You can put up barriers, or you can lock the Xerox machine, or you can scramble the satellite, or so on. But it's very hard. Information tends naturally to leak. I think that that's something we want to, a trend or a tendency that we want to ride, the natural ubiquity of information. So although we'll be distributing, for example, on satellite, it is our hope that we won't have to scramble, so that we will also have the natural spillage into all of the people who have satellite dishes.
Yeah, you got a couple million people have dishes on their own now, and satellite and so forth. Yeah,
same in Europe.
Yeah, right, and that is happening, and not to mention educational institutions who you might have to be in the dorms, but they might want to pick it up in the dorms.
Anybody who wants to catch
the word could get out in a sense, and it could happen that way. And it would be possible to present alternative views that would be on the future, and in the process of that, you might be able to pick up on some alternative views in terms of some things. I know you say you're going to try not to be talking about politics, but some alternative views of world views that peoples around the world have, that people in the United States or vice versa have difficulty doing. I know Schaefer, Kenny Schaefer has brought Soviet television here now, for instance, which is one alternative. But you could bring other views of the world here to people too. It would be an alternative world view and a programming service to which people could repair to gain a sense of reality in a very confusing, technologically, exponentially increasing time.
Right. I think part of that problem is that we don't realize that a lot of the future accessible sources is already the world. You know, the world is in some ways very far ahead of us in the United States in terms of accessing a possible future, even in that sense. We kind of have gotten into a situation where if we look up and down the scale of the people of America, the youth, kind of, you can lose sight, or you can be the sight can be taken away. And we intend to reprovide this, the sight and the direction outward.
Right. And
it doesn't belong to us, but it belongs to everyone.
And you'd be able to spread your net widely. You might be able to find answers in other research labs or political systems. Who knows? Maybe some of our enemies, Soviet Union, Nicaragua, Gaddafi, others might have answers that might even have positive application. And it could be a force for tremendous good and peace in the world. And a sense of non-alienation that a sense of participation and understanding of the world could bring to the people. And I congratulate you, gentlemen, wish you all the very, very best in your programming effort. I would, to you in the television audience, allow me once again to introduce on my immediate left the president of this exciting venture, that being Richard Savage, who is the president of Weekend Future TV. In the middle, Richie Havens, the chairman of the board, as it were. And on our far left, Kevin Saunders, the chief
Science editor.
Science editor.
Science and news editor.
Yeah, putting a lot of these things together, bringing a lot of his experience to the effort. Thank you very, very much for viewing. It's been our pleasure to present these perceptions to you. An exciting development, gentlemen. Once again, thank you really very much indeed, and all the best as you move into this exciting future you're having such a hand in helping shape.
Amen.
Our pleasure to bring you those perceptions. We invite you to stay tuned again next week. We'll be coming back again next week. That's it for this particular segment. Again, gentlemen, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. We'll see you next week.